Hello there. It's been a long while since I last took any video on my channel, so sorry for that, and sorry for the lack of my time. And this time I'm dressed up as a beekeeper because that's what I am, among many others. And I got your questions here. My dear friend Richard transmitted your questions to a beekeeper, so I'll try to answer them. Let's hope it's not too noisy today out here. If it is, then I might retake the whole thing, yeah, inside the house. But let's try with this first. All right, so I'm Feri. I'm a beekeeper, among many others. I just turned an electrician today, so woohoo for that. Yeah, I passed my electrician's exam. But your questions are still about beekeeping, so there are quite a few of them. Sorry for the train noise. There is a train line running 300 meters from here. Alright, so let's see, why do you keep bees? That's the first question. And I figured that as you can see, I live in a house with a garden in the countryside, 1 hour from Budapest to the east. And well, I noticed that I take much better care of the garden and the plants within the garden when I have bees as well, and I can see them roaming around, and even if I just see them coming home to the hive each evening, that gives me a feeling of being connected with nature, because yeah, they belong to nature. They are an integral part of nature, and as long as I keep bees, I can also feel kind of part of nature. Yeah, and actually the honey is just a benefit, a side effect of keeping bees. I don't keep them for the honey. I keep them to be more involved in what happens around in the countryside. All right, how long is it still running? Oh yes, it is. Okay. So how long do you have? How long have you kept? No, no. How long? Oh, how long have you kept bees? That's right. Well, I started in 2014, and at that time I had. Sorry for the dog barking. It's not my dog. I don't like dogs. It's the neighbor's dog. So how long have you kept bees? Well, I started in 2014, 1 year after I started paragliding, because my my huge friend Lucy, he used to keep bees at that time, and we met at the paragliding school. So a year from that, he introduced me to beekeeping, and that's how I got to like bees. And so it was 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Halfway we moved here, and then 19. Then my son got born. 2020 was the year when I started not having bees. Yeah, just during the pandemic period. But now I might still have the chance to have them again. So yeah, I'm preparing, because sometimes you just land on a tree, like on that tree. So it's good to have a hive laying around in the garden, just in case they decided to move in, which they did one time a couple of years back. They didn't stay long because I was not a smart beekeeper enough, not a smart enough beekeeper, but I learned from my mistakes. So yeah, since 2014, about 6 years, 7 years now, with 2 years hiatus. Alright, why do bees follow the queen bee? Because they depend a lot on her. In fact, it's the queen bee only that lays eggs in a colony. So if you don't have your queen bee, then you don't have any reinforcement to the colony. And this is actually strictly connected or closely connected to the next question: how long do bees live? And it depends on what type of bee you are, because if you are a queen bee, you get to live 3 years, 5 years even. But if you're a worker bee, which 80% of the bees are, female bees are called worker bees because they are not female in the biological sense, because their their organs are, to be a female bee, are not fully developed, because it's only the queen bee that has the sex organs to produce, to mate and to produce eggs. That's only, yeah, only the queen bee can do that. So you are technically unable to call the worker bees females because they cannot reproduce. So they are, yeah, they are just called worker bees. And you have the male bees, who are the drones, and they don't produce any honey, they don't work, they just lie around, they buzz around, and they mate around with with queen bees, virgin queen bees. And once the queen bee mates, then she just remains in the hive like forever. Okay, not forever, but throughout her life expectancy. So if you're a worker bee, you can expect to live around 30 days, 40 days at most. But of course, the, the the brood needs to renew itself, and that's only the queen bee who can lay eggs. And all the queen bee does is just she roams around the honeycomb and puts one egg in a bee cell, like all day long. That's what she does. And if you don't have your queen bee, then you are not able to keep up the hives. So that's why every bee knows that they need the queen really much. And actually, yeah, that's a problem when you lose a bee, lose a queen bee. Sometimes it happens to beekeepers that they lose a bee, and well, yeah, either you give them a new one, or they make them produce a new one from the eggs that the old queen that just vanished or happened to be vanishing, like what she left. If the eggs are fresh enough, then the worker bees are able to produce a new queen from the fresh eggs. But if so let's say you lose a queen bee, and the eggs the queen bee had laid before she got lost get older than like 4 days, then the worker bees have no chance to rear a queen bee again, because only eggs up to the age of 3 days can be turned into a queen bee. So that's why bees follow the queen bee. And then, do bees sting you? How often are you stung, and how long does it hurt for? Well, I do get stung, yes. Uh, well, it depends on how much you do beekeeping and how many colonies you have. In the peak period, I had like 5 to 6 hives, and I got stung once each year. Yeah, maybe twice if I was not smart enough. But yeah, I could say that with 5 colonies, I would expect to get stung each year, once or maybe twice, because the bees are really docile. Yep. And how long does it hurt for? Well, it hurts for half a day. Yeah. And it swells. For example, if I get stung, the worst bee sting is under your nails. Yeah, that's really painful. But usually you get stung on the finger, sometimes here or there. Yeah, fingers are stung kind of most often, I guess, because you work with your fingers. They can pierce through gloves, so don't expect to not get stung when you're wearing gloves. And actually, they sting you most often, or they are most likely to sting you when you pinch them and you squish them with your gloves. That's why many beekeepers, including myself, prefer to keep bees there with bare hands, because with your fingers you can feel if you are just about to squish one bee, and you just work your fingers around them so that they don't get scared or anything like that, and they won't sting you. However, oh, special protection, yeah, that's the next question. Yeah, so what special protection do you wear? There are two main parts of beekeeping protection, or protection gear. One is your beekeeping jacket, which has this veil here. You just zip it up like that. It's zipped up, and you have this velcro fitted tab here, and that's it. They are not able to get on your face. And the number one reason why you need a veil or some kind of a beekeeping helmet during beekeeping is not because they are aggressive, but because they are curious. And the nose is just the size for a bee to get inside and discover, and they're really curious. So you can, if your face is not covered, you can expect some bees to start discovering your nostrils and ears and any bodily cavities you might have hanging out. So that's why it's advisable or best to keep a beekeeper's veil in front of your face, that you are just left alone and you can just do beekeeping calmly. The other beekeeping protection gear, which is just as important, if not more important than the beekeeping jacket, is the smoker. Because if bees communicate via pheromones, they secrete these pheromones, these puffs of smell, and that's how they communicate. There are different patterns, different ingredients to the pheromones, and they have they have a gathering pheromone. When they are swarming, then they secrete the gathering pheromone. That acts like a smoke, a helicopter smoke flare, a smoke stick. If you are trying to land in a helicopter from somewhere, and you just start this smoke, green or red or whatever color, you have these smoke flares. Another pheromone is the alarm pheromone, and if they are disturbed or they are scared, or when you open up their hives, then they can be scared to death. So they produce the alarm pheromones, and that induces them to start looking for the enemy. And with a bee eye, you look just like a bear, so they will try to start going for your eyes and nose and mouth if they can find it. And they communicate with the alarm pheromones, so when the bee smells the alarm pheromones of their comrades, then they just gather around, and that's how trouble starts. But if you have a smoker and you put some pine leaves in it, I have egg crates, remnants of egg, cardboard egg crates in it. You light it up, you close it down, you remove the plug. This is just a twig, actually. I wonder if you can see a tree branch shaped like a plug. So I plug it up when I'm done, and you puff a few puffs of smoke upon the hive near the entrance, and as soon as you open up the lid of the hive, then you smoke them with a few puffs of thick, cool, in terms of temperature, cool smoke. And that actually masks their alarm pheromones, or any pheromones for that matter, so they don't sense they don't smell each other's fear, basically. So they are just docile, and you can work with them. Another benefit of the smoker is that the bees, when you smoke them, they tend to think that there's a forest fire, a wildfire somewhere, So they do prepare for an evacuation incident, and the most important step of a bee evacuation incident, so the procedure is to gulp up as much honey or nectar as you can find, because you might need to move a few kilometers away until the next huge tree branch or tree cavity or whatnot. So at times when they smell smoke, they gulp up as much honey as they find. But if your bee stomach is full of honey, then you're not able to bend your abdomen forward from the back, and you're not able to sting anyone. So that's why beekeepers use smoke. Yeah, its benefit is twofold. So you mask your pheromones, you mask your own smell, because through the smoke they won't smell you. They don't like bodily odors, and they don't like perfumes either. So the less smell you have, the better. But the smoke masks your own smell. You mask their alarm pheromones, and then you trick them into thinking that there's a wildfire nearby, so they would be more preoccupied with the evacuation procedures. Even if they don't have to leave the hive, they prepare for it. So they have a sip of honey, and that's what keeps you protected. And the third tool a beekeeper uses is a hive tool, and this is basically a pry bar. It has two ends. It has a sharp pointy end, with which you can scrape beeswax, you can scrape propolis, and the other end is again a crowbar, because if you open up a hive, then you can see, not this hive, but any real hive, any occupied hive, you can see that the bees, actually we do have some propolis right here. We do have some propolis right here. I have the wide angle lens on the phone right now, so you might not be able to see this clearly enough. But this is all propolis, which is a bee tar, a type of bee tar. They call it bee tar in Hungarian at least, and it's like a clay, yeah, like Play-Doh. And bees use propolis to seal up any cracks and crannies inside the hive, so that wind doesn't get in and warmth doesn't get out. And it has really strong disinfectant properties, so they seal it up and they disinfect it, but then it hardens, so it's like glue. So when you open up a hive, sorry for the dog barking again. So when you open up a hive, actually you would not be able to just grab a frame and pull it out, because it's stuck in so hard. And that's why you use this pry bar. With each, you just pry it open, and then you can pry them out like that, and that's how you get out frames, basically. So these are the three most important tools a beekeeper uses: a jacket, a hive tool, and the smoke. Alright, let's see the next question. So yeah, bee sting hurts for half a day, and then it swells, and then it stays swollen for 2 days. Yeah. What special protection do you wear? Yeah, I just told you that I wear the bee jacket. Actually, there are full body bee jackets, bee suits, beekeeping suits, but I have only the jacket part. So I wear my usual jeans or workers' pants or whatever. It's important to how do you express that in a foreign language? it's important. Well, yeah, it's important to put your trouser pants inside your socks because some bees get on the ground and they tend to climb up trees or the walls of the hive or your leg. And if you don't have your trouser pants tucked inside your socks, well, that sucks because then they get up your trouser pants and might surprise you. Um, yeah, what special? Yeah, that's the question I just answered. What type of bees do you work with? That's an interesting one, actually, and it's a rare question from young people like you might be. So there are two major types of bees in Europe, and the western part of Europe, including uh, France, Spain, some parts of Germany, Italy. They use the Italian type of bees, the Ligustica variant. Those are a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more productive. Those are the bees you can see when you Google bees, and they give you a bee which is more yellowish, orangish, yellowish in color. That's what a bee looks like when you imagine a bee. However, in the Carpathian Basin here in Hungary and Slovakia, Transylvania, Serbia, even Slovenia, here we use the Eastern European uh, variant, the species, subspecies of bee, which is the Carniolan bee. It's indigenous to the eastern part of Slovenia, the Pannonian Basin, Hungary, Transylvania. So just inside the Carpathian mountain range, you have this special type of, well, the indigenous bees we have, and they are instead of being yellow, they're more like brownish grayish. They still have the stripes, and they still have yellow stripes, but they are not as pronounced, like not yellow, but it's more like brown and gray. And they are much more docile, much more friendly, and they are much more calm than the Italian bees. They are not as active as the Italian bees. And another peculiarity of this subspecies is that their population um, varies with the seasons. So during the spring and summer, there's a population boom where you can get up to like 70,000 bees per colony. And then for the winter, the colony gets their number gets diminished, and the colony basically shrinks to one fourth of its original size, which is good because they need less space, they need less food, and yeah, the less bees during the winter, the less you have to worry about. However, the Italian bee colonies are not as fluctuating, or they are not as periodic as the Carniolan bee, and they maintain their colony size even throughout winter, which is, well, it's not always advantageous, if especially when you have to feed them. So that's why we love Carniolan bees, and they are the most docile, the most peaceful subspecies of bees in the whole world, actually, as far as I know. All right, so let's see. Do you also work with wasps? And I do not. And there are no beekeepers who work with wasps because wasps do not produce honey, and in fact, they are all predators. So a wasp eats protein, they need protein and sugar, and they actually get protein from other insects. And wasps do catch and eat honeybees, especially hornets do catch and eat honeybees, and they just rip off the head and the abdomen and suck out the honey. They prefer hornets prefer honeybees coming back from a foraging trip because their abdomen is full of their tummy is full of honey. So yeah, they just grab them and take them away to their hives and feed them to their own brood. So no, I don't keep wasps, and I try to get rid of wasps. I have traps around, and sometimes I flame them with a flamethrower. Yeah, that kind of stuff. All right. How do bees vote for a queen? They don't actually vote for a queen. They have one queen, and if anything happens to that queen, then they, from the existing still young eggs, they can produce another bee, another queen bee, by feeding her royal jelly, which bees secrete from their glands. How do you call those glands? The laryngeal glands secrete this milk-like substance, which beekeepers call royal jelly. It's bee milk, basically. And if you feed royal jelly to eggs and young larvae, then that larvae get converted into queen bee, and they have these queen pods for the eggs to develop in. They make those cells a little bit larger so that they can accommodate even a full-size queen bee. And after 19 days, when the queen bee emerges, they even they make pods on a honeycomb, like 4 or 5 of these dedicated queen pods, and whichever emerges first gets to kill all the others. And if they are all the other queen bees, because they are rivals for that day. And yeah, these are like Highlander, and there can be only one. So if they emerge at the same time, then they look for each other. Actually, they call each other. They can sense that there is a rival queen bee on the same honeycomb, or in the same hive, and they shout at each other. They make special sounds to call each other, and then they fight. And then one gets killed, and the other gets to be the queen bee for that hive. Alright, is it hard to keep bees? Yes and no. No, because the bees know what's best for them, and they do everything to keep up the hive, so they help you a lot. But yes, because it's not always easy to keep bees, especially if the foraging area is not as abundant in nectar and flowering plants as more fortunate areas. And here where I live, and I guess 5 colonies is the maximum I'm able to keep here, because I can remember that when I had 2 colonies, I had a lot of honey. And I started as soon as I started doubling up the colonies, and I got to 6 colonies, 5 colonies, 6 colonies, then the amount of honey they gather, the amount of nectar got 6 times. I mean, yeah, 1/6 of the amount. So I figure that there is this set amount of nectar this area can produce, and if I only keep two colonies, then the nectar gets divided into two. But if I ramp up the families, then the more families I have, the more parts the foraging income just gets divided into. So yes, it sometimes can be hard, especially during the summer, because it's hot, and during July and the first half of August, you don't have many flowering species of plants. So it can happen that you might need to feed them sugar water to keep up the population. Yes. How much honey does one bee make? And I've never measured it myself, but legend has it that one bee produces 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. So that's not much actually. But if you think about their life expectancy, then in 40 days you are not expected to gather buckets of honey. It's just one drop of honey. And what do you do with the honey? Yes, I eat them. I use it around the household, but if I have any surplus, then I sell it. And it did happen back in 2016 when I got quite some surplus of honey, and I sold it in the office where I work. So that was a very nice experience. Yeah. But as I've already told you, I don't keep the bees for the honey, but for the connection with nature, and they help me get to be a part of the ecosystem. Yeah. Sorry again for the train noise. All right. We've reached the end of the questions, and you might still have no questions, which is a good thing. So you are advised to leave your comments below the video, and if you have any more questions, then ask them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them. Or you can make a response video, and I could respond to the response video, and we can strike up a video discussion if you are interested. But I'm still fine with answering written questions like this one. So sorry for the bird noise. It's noisy living in the countryside. So that's it. Thank you guys for the questions. Thank you, Richard, for approaching me with this topic. And see you soon. I'm sorry I haven't posted many videos in these last couple of years, but I've been busy with kids, and I had been busy with my electrician training. But now that my electrician training is over, officially from today, then I expect to make a few videos this summer, perhaps. Let's see. And I have a lot of video clips on my hard drive on the computer, which are still sitting around waiting for some editing to happen, and I would just need to cut them and select some suitable background music or explanations. I also plan to do some voiceovers, but that's a lot of work, so I'm not sure when I can produce my next video, but let's see. Alright, you guys have a nice summer. Thank you for the questions, and see you sometime next time. Bye bye.